At 3:25 a.m. local time, two B-2A Spirit stealth bombers, under the call signs Petro 41 and 42, entered Iranian airspace. Its objective was to destroy all the silos of Iranian ballistic missiles dug under 80 meters of solid rock in the Alborz mountain range. The military irony is exquisite. The Pentagon spends $2 billion on stealth engineering to enter a country in absolute silence, only to then drop 16 tons of ammunition and wake up the entire tectonic plate. In short, so that you understand the logistical hell they were facing, Iranian engineers built a 500-meter deep complex under bedrock. They designed silos with vertical magazines capable of firing swarms of solid-fuel ballistic missiles directly into the stratosphere through hatches camouflaged in the mountain. Oh, without needing to bring them to the surface. But to annihilate these subterranean beasts, the mathematical equation must be perfect. At almost 9,000 kilometers per hour, the aircraft's quantum computer devours environmental variables. Wind shear at multiple altitudes, barometric pressure, air density to calculate the microscopic instant at which the GBU 31,000 kilogram bombs with BLU 109 penetrating warheads must be dropped. A half-second error in the fall and the weapon will bounce harmlessly against the granite, leaving the base intact. Suddenly, the screen of the Link 16 data link system is flooded with a deadly red. Two interceptor vectors ascend an afterburner from an advanced airbase just 45 kilometers away. Telemetry identifies the signature of the AL-41F1S engines. They are Su-35S Flanker E air superiority fighters, Tehran's most lethal and recent acquisition. But Iranian pilots are not stupid. They know that turning on their powerful Irbis radars would alert the bomber's electronic warfare systems. Instead, they keep radars off and use the OLS-35, a sophisticated electro-optical and infrared search and tracking system. This passive sensor doesn't give a damn about US radar absorbing coatings. Look for the brutal visual contrast of the B-2's silhouette against the blue of the sky, and track the thermal signature of 4 turbofan engines spewing gases at hundreds of degrees Celsius in an icy atmosphere. The distance on the tactical screen plummets brutally: 35 kilometers, 28 kilometers, 20 kilometers. The Su-35s are seeing them directly through their high-resolution cameras. The leading Iranian fighter levels its nose, obtaining perfect optical locking. It has just aligned its R-74 thermal tracking missiles directly to the bomber's right nozzle. Luckily, bombers don't travel alone. His escort is the aeronautical equivalent of a 30-ton gorilla kicking in the front door with a shotgun. A pair of F-15E Strike Eagles fighters loaded to the brim with air-to-air missiles. 96 kilometers away, the F-15Es turn on their massive APG-82 AESA radars in active mode, flooding the electromagnetic spectrum. Inside the cockpit of the B-2, mission commanders watch the hunt silently through the tactical screen. 2 blue triangles drift aggressively toward the threat. 2 red triangles respond. It is a deadly threat over which the bomber pilots have no control. The only thing they can really rule is their attack route. The clock shows 117 kilometers to the first launch point. 14 minutes exactly. The US needs those Su-35s to disappear before they reach the target for a reason. Opening the bomb bay doors multiplies the B-2's radar cross-section by a factor of 100. During those 10 seconds of exposure, the aircraft ceases to be an undetectable marble and becomes a football stadium wrapped in aluminum foil. If 19 kilometers away, any enemy sensors are looking in that direction, the B-2 is dead. The L-15O pastel radar warning receivers in the cockpits of the Su-35s light up like Christmas trees. They have them in their sights. The Iranian leader turns violently to the left, reverses the aircraft, and plummets towards the mountain range. His companion follows him. They are not fleeing. They are using the mountain valleys of the northwest to mask themselves on the ground, foul the radar signal with solid interference, and break the jam. But modern fighters hiding in the noise of the terrain and peeking into the flight corridor every few minutes is a time-consuming trap that the B-2 doesn't have. There are 11 minutes left to drop the bombs. B-2 commanders go through the checklist while red contacts flash sporadically on the monitor. Suddenly, an F-15E captures a brief infrared flash. The Su-35 has just turned on its afterburner as it emerges from a mountain 24 kilometers away, ascending to attempt a new approach to the bomber. The F-15 pilot does not hesitate. The firing system designates the target, and an AIM-120D AMRAAM missile leaves the internal hold, accelerating to Mach 3 with the seeker active. At 27 kilometers, this should be a definitive execution, but the Su-35 pilot detects the launch, executes a tight turn at more than 8 Gs, and dives back into the mountains. The AMRAAM Seeker loses the hunting signature amid the electromagnetic bounce of the mountain. The Iranians use terrain they have trained on for years to deny any clean firing angle. Every time a Su-35 pokes over the crest, the F-15 has just 3 seconds before they disappear again. That's not enough time for a missile to cover the distance before the target hides behind solid rock. It's the deadliest mole smash game ever invented. Only moles move at Mach 1.5 and each hit costs $1 million. 90 seconds to go until the launch point. Total silence in the cockpit of the 41st Petro. The F-15ES have lost track of the Su-35 leader in the labyrinth of cannons at Alborz. The B-2's autopilot is unfazed. The aircraft must fly in a straight level line for the quantum computer to make the delivery. At 15:05, the stopwatch reaches 0. The gigantic floodgates of the Petro 41 open in unison. Goodbye to the $2 billion of stealth. In that nanosecond, the B-2 turns on an electromagnetic beacon on radars in half the region and is exactly what the Iranian pilot was waiting for. The Su-35 was lurking under the ridge, waiting for the bomber to strip naked. The fighter climbs vertically at maximum afterburner, poking its nose above the mountain just 15 kilometers away. The tactical screen of the Petro 41 lights up in critical red launch alarm. An R-74M heat-seeking missile has just left the Iranian fighter rail. Instinct and doctrine cry out, evasive maneuvers. But if the B-2 makes a sharp turn at 900 kilometers per hour with the hatches open, the 1,000-kilogram bombs will hit the walls of the bay and the bomber will tear itself apart in the air. The commander has to swallow his panic and fly in a straight line for 10 eternal seconds, watching a missile approach Mach 2 until the last bomb falls. 16 GBU-31 bombs fall off. 16 tons of steel leave the ship. The gate slams shut, restoring stealth. Immediately, the B-2 breaks flight to the left, releasing an inferno of thermal flares. Simultaneously, the F-15E escort swoops across airspace at Mach 1.5, spewing its own wall of countermeasures and turning its electronic jammers to maxed out. The Iranian missile seeker becomes saturated with heat and microwaves, losing track and detonating harmlessly 500 meters from the bomber's wing. Meanwhile, at terminal velocity, the 1,000 kilograms of each GBU-31 adjust 10 times per second and hit the inlets and vents of the mountain. BLU-109 penetrating warheads have delayed fuses. They do not explode on the surface. They pass through dozens of meters of granite and detonate inside the launch chambers. The massive steel doors that were supposed to open to the sky collapse into the abyss. The internal blast wave implodes the mountain, sealing the complex under thousands of tons of rock. But the mission is not over yet. 960 kilometers to the south, the Petro 42nd bomber enters Corridor 2. 8 minutes to go before its launch point, and the tactical screen throws a death sentence. An Iranian Bavar 373 anti-aircraft battery hidden in the mountains of Isfahan has turned on its fire control radar and managed to lock onto the B-2. The battery commander doesn't hesitate for a second. Press the button. A massive Sayyad 4B missile leaves the launch tube, accelerating into the stratosphere with the sole mission of disintegrating the black bomber. The escort response is instantaneous and mute. An EA-18G Growler picks up the electromagnetic emission, saturates the enemy frequency with its ALQ-249 jamming pod, and fires an AGM-88G HARM anti-radiation missile. Its ramjet lights up, accelerating to Mach 4, tracking the energy beam directly toward the Iranian radar antenna. The ballistic computer shows paralyzing mathematics. 60 seconds are left before the HARM vaporizes the anti-aircraft battery, but it is exactly 58 seconds before the Iranian missile reaches the altitude of the B-2. For the Sayyad 4B to hit, the Iranian operator must keep its radar on to guide it in the terminal phase. If you turn it off, your missile goes blind and the B-2 survives. But if you keep the radar on, the American HARM has a perfect headlight to hit directly in your face. The commander of the 42nd Petro can't alter course. He can only watch the stopwatches plummet on the tactical screen. 10 seconds. The Growler pumps so much interference energy into the grid that the Iranian missile's firing solution begins to degrade. The Sayyad missile deviates slightly, losing speed as it attempts to correct its trajectory within the electronic chaos. Those lost milliseconds change the equation. The HARM missile hits first. 13,000 meters below, the battery of the Bavar 373 radar turns into a crater of molten metal. Above, just 3 kilometers from the 42nd Petro, the Sayyad 4B abruptly loses its data link. Blind and without a terrestrial guide, its safety systems are activated and it detonates prematurely in the sky. With the Iranian missile turned to dust behind him, the commander of Petro 42 turns his eyes to the tactical screen. He has 5 minutes left to the point of launch over Isfahan, and the Link 16 network has just vomited a new problem on top of him. The airspace above their targets is in chaos. 2 Israeli F-35I stealth fighters have just invaded the sector at low altitude, hunting mobile missile launchers. Mission Control orders the B-2 to divert its launch point 3 kilometers north to avoid a collision or a bomb falling on an allied aircraft. In terms of civil aviation, to divert the route 3 kilometers is to turn the steering wheel. In a stealth strategic bomber, it means manually reprogramming the GPS coordinates of 16 smart bombs of 1 ton each, while the aircraft devours the sky at 15 kilometers per minute. The commander's fingers fly over the tactical keyboard. He has practiced this blind reprogramming hundreds of times in the simulators at Whiteman Base, but never with a pulse at 140 beats per minute after surviving an anti-aircraft missile. There are 3 minutes to go. Below, the Israelis do their job. The B-2's passive radar picks up thermal flash when an Israeli GBU-39 small diameter bomb vaporizes an Iranian truck loaded with ballistic fuel. The secondary flare is so immense that it blinds the Petro's infrared sensors 42 for a full 2 seconds. 60 seconds to go. The commander finishes entering the last line of code. 8 new ballistic trajectories confirmed. At 3:44, the bombardier's belly opens. 8 GBU-31s cascade. The titanium fins of each munition whiz through the frigid air, adjusting their course microscopically. The warheads strike with demonic precision. They pierce the granite of the east and west entrances of the Isfahan complexes. The mountain collapses in on itself, swallowing Iranian technicians and sealing the complex under thousands of tons of rock and reinforced concrete. The Petro 42 closes its floodgates and veers violently to the southeast. The bomber begins a 35-minute tactical flight. After devouring almost 500 kilometers, the Petro 42 finally reaches its final goal, Korgu, an immense ballistic launch complex carved into solid rock. Unlike the other bases, Korg is fully active. Armored hatches on top of the mountain open mechanically every 8 minutes, spewing ballistic missiles into the night sky, aimed directly at coalition bases in the Persian Gulf. The commander of the Petro 42 can't just bomb the entrances, he needs to annihilate the launch tubes. You have to insert the needle exactly into the refill window. The computer calculates the free fall time, 90 seconds. The B-2 adjusts its course by sailing over the top of the fire-breathing mountain. At 4:01, just as the Iranian stopwatch marks the 5th minute of reloading, the Petro 42 opens its weapons bays at its point of maximum vulnerability. The remaining 8 bombs fall into the abyss. The bomber's autopilot spins violently to escape. Below, deep within Korga, the heavy steel doors of the main silo stand wide open, ready to receive the next ballistic missile slowly ascending on the hydraulic lift. But what enters through the roof is not a missile, it is 1,000 kilograms of American kinetic steel traveling at terminal speed. The Blue 109 warhead passes through the launch chamber and detonates exactly in the mechanical elevator. There is no volatile ammunition that would cause a massive chain reaction to the outside, but the result is just as definitive. When the explosion mashes the complex automated reloading machinery into metal, bends the titanium launch rails, and collapses the roof of the inertial chamber. 7 seconds later, the second bomb enters through the adjacent hatch, repeating the mechanical annihilation. For the next 20 seconds, the remaining GBU-31s systematically walk over the secondary vents and logistical access gates at the base of the mountain, sealing the tomb. Korgu is left in the dark. The Link 16 network is muted. The facility, which 10 minutes ago spat apocalyptic fire over the Middle East has just been erased from the strategic equation by pure ballistic mathematics. Today, the Revolutionary Guard discovered why roads in the United States are full of potholes. The tax money didn't go to asphalt. It was to build a $2 billion bat that flies half the planet just to go and make bigger, more expensive holes in other people's mountains. Changing out.